Get hype, internet, because a new Game of Thrones trailer is here, and there is a lot to break down. I am Terry. I am here with Eric Goldman, and this is sort of requisite spoiler warning, which, if you're already at this point, there's a huge spoiler on the screen right now.
Yes, everything up till now, obviously, is going to be full spoilers. And then beyond that, we don't really know what's happening this year on the show, but, we're not going to go into anything that we know from the books that hasn't happened yet on the show. There are still a few things, guys.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of theorizing, a little bit of, are we really seeing this right now? But we aren't out to spoil anyone. But this image in front of us, dead Jon Snow. This, HBO has been saying Jon Snow is dead. This trailer is trying to remind us of that. There is probably more imagery of Jon Snow being dead in this trailer than any other character.
His corpse is like a huge part of the promotional campaign for this season. I just want to know how much Kit Harington was paid for corpse work.
I mean, probably as much as every other actor in this show.
Probably more than we're ever going to see.
But moving past that, we have this shot of Jaime, Bronn, and dead Myrcella coming back from Dorne, arriving at King's Landing.
Worst father-daughter trip ever.
Worst father-daughter trip ever. There was some doubts, like, are they just going to turn around and head back to Dorne and try and get some revenge? But it does seem like they head straight for King's Landing, and they're going to have to deal with the fallout of Myrcella's death.
Yeah, Cersei's going to be so excited about that.
After this, we have this awesome line from Melisandre where she says, "The great victory I saw in the flames, it was all a lie," which is a big thing to hear from her character. She's pretty much relied on that faith of hers throughout this entire show.
She is the true believer, obviously, in a very dangerous way. So to hear her say that is a big deal. And then, of course, we're wondering, are we seeing aftermath of Shireen here, or which that would have been a long time ago at this point, we assume?
I feel like it might be a flayed Stannis, depending on whether or not the Baratheon men get his body back. I mean, we know that he was defeated out by Brienne in the woods, but maybe the Boltons got him before his own men could.
Yeah, because you got this whole gathering there, it looks like, in the background.
And also, it's on the flayed cross that the Boltons love to use, but he's up hanging upside down too. Like, it's clearly not someone they're treating with a lot of respect.
No, this is not someone anyone was a fan of.
We had this moment in the season 5 finale where Dany drops her ring into the Dothraki Sea, which I was like, how is anyone going to find it? Turns out Jorah did find the ring.
Got a tracker in it.
So they found this. It implies to us that they are on the trail to find Dany, but Dany is on her own little journey, and we see her returning to Vice Dothrak, which is the one Dothraki city. We actually saw this back in the first season of Game of Thrones.
Obviously, we're going back into the world of Dothraki in a major way here, and giant crowd there, and we're going to sort of see what Dany is. She's changed a lot since she was with these people, so it'll be interesting to see her amongst them again and exactly what her position is with them.
We don't highlight every moment in this rewind that the Dothraki appear in, but they do get a certain amount of screen time in this trailer, so it seems like that will be a substantial part of the season. This next screenshot is my favorite. I've been freaking out about it all day.
She's been freaking out about it, guys.
One word.
Definitely back that up.
Kingsmoot. If you don't know what it means, I personally didn't think that the show was going to do this, but as you can see, we have the Greyjoy sigil. This has to do with the Iron Islands. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, we should say, yes, they did technically catch up to the books in the big picture, but they did jump over some events from the books, and they've implied that we're still going to see some of those. Some of those things that it seemed like they were just skipping completely might sneak in, and yes, we won't go into details here, but this looks like it might be one such event.
Yeah, and there's a white-haired gentleman that you can sort of see, and there's some people speculating that it could be the Damper, which is Theon's uncle, who is very religious within the world of the Iron Islands. Could be pretty cool. Moving on. I call this image Boss Sansa.
Yes.
Clearly there was that cliffhanger at the end of last season where...
A literal cliffhanger.
Literal cliffhanger, where we see Theon and Sansa jump out of Winterfell. Apparently they didn't break their legs, or at least from what we can tell, Sansa seems to be in pretty good shape here.
Yeah, there was an image, actually, one of the still images that HBO put out had Sansa sort of holding up Theon, kind of helping him, but that was still outdoors. Clearly at some point, she at least seems relative safety. This does not look like a distressed Sansa. Doesn't look like she's being kept captive. The trailer makes it look like she's with Tyrion, just editing and having his line go over this. I don't think that's the case. I think
she might be with Littlefinger, or she might, be up on any other journey. But I do think this image is the definition of having your game face on.
Yeah, and we, look, a lot of us have been waiting for Sansa to kind of really rise up after all the horribleness after all this time. It did not happen last year, but hopefully this year is the time.
Boss Sansa forever. All right, this next image is it's a greater sequence, and it's this really cool showdown between Lancel Lannister, who we know is one of the Sparrows now, and Cersei Lannister, and Lancel asks her, tell your man to stand down, man being Sir Robert Strong. Zombie Mountain, who we see right in front of us right now. He said, tell him to stand down or there will be violence, and she goes, I choose violence. Which is a great way to just encapsulate something we again see a lot in this trailer, which is that the Sparrows and Cersei and the Kingsguard are going to be clashing a lot in King's Landing.
Yeah, it's a pretty badass moment for Cersei. I think it's going to get a lot of people who were still on the fence about Cersei and didn't know if they should be behind her or rooting for her. That line is so great, I think, and especially because we don't like everything happening with what Lancel is representing. And I also say this is the scene that will be the most gift and memed moment of this trailer. I'm sure even as we speak, people are choosing I choose violence is all over the internet. Take it away, folks.
Take it away. This next image, there's a lot of speculation that goes on here.
There's a lot of speculation about who the hell these guys are.
Yeah, this is where we get a little bit into potential spoiler territory. Again, we're just speculating right now, but that guy at the front looks a lot like a young Ned Stark to me. And there were some theories that, or some rumors, that a young Ned Stark was cast this season, which means we could be getting a flashback to the time of Robert's Rebellion. Yeah,
and last season, they kind of opened this door by having the Cersei flashback, so it seems like we might start to touch upon a little bit more of the backstory here, and, bringing things back to the beginning by even having Ned be a presence. Again, none of this is confirmed, but because we can't tell who any of those characters are, none of them seem like the main characters on the show. Yeah, that looks kind of Ned Starky. So
and I think
cool.
I think as we dive into the relevance and how history might be repeating itself and stuff, showing us Robert's Rebellion and the Tower of Joy and some of these really important events from the Game of Thrones history. Now is a good time to be doing that.
Yep.
So my fingers are crossed that that's actually what we are seeing here. Euron Greyjoy in the flesh, finally getting to see him. A new character this season. He is Theon's troublesome uncle.
Yeah, the Greyjoys in general are one of those aspects that they skipped over a lot of, if you were to do parallel to what we saw in the TV show. But now it looks like, we're going to start to fill in some of those blanks and get more about Theon's family and what all the positions are in this family and who is of importance and who is not.
In this scene, it looks sort of like he's being baptized or something. Again, that could be the Dampire, related to the religion of the Iron Islands behind him. Euron could be a really important character, a bit of a game-changing character this season. I'm really excited to see what they do with him.
Yeah.
And the actor who they cast to play him, Palau Asbæk, he's a Danish actor. He's very talented, and it should be pretty good. Up next, I call this sexy time. Eric, you have another word for it.
I'm just saying it's incest time, but hey, if you want to also embrace it as sexy time, I will say this, that these two characters that have had such a back and forth in their relationship, and certainly it seemed like sexy time was over for them, and considering Jaime is returning with the corpse of their daughter, it would seem that this would not be the route it would take. But hey, grief unites us, and she's gone through a lot of stuff, so perhaps we are going to see the return of the brother and sister who really, really like each other.
As long as it doesn't play out the same way that they handled
being
in front of
Joffrey.
Corpse
of your children. Yeah. Let's hope not. But yeah, I am surprised by this only as much as it seemed like they were really splitting them apart. But
yeah, it seems Twincest is back on in full force.
Back on.
This next image, again, more dead Jon Snow. It's like
more Kit Harington's toughest day at work.
They're sick of saying Jon Snow's dead this season. Jon Snow's dead this season, so they just keep showing us these images.
I still don't buy it, of course. He's dead, but I still think we'll see him again one day in some way. But for now, they really in the advertising are like, look at him being dead. Look how dead he is.
It's funny too because Kit Harington came out recently and said something to that extent where he's like, well, okay, yes, you will see me this season, but it's just my corpse.
Right.
He said it was some of his best acting, which we can see evidence here.
There he is. He's going to give him his Emmy. That's his Emmy clip right there.
There are a lot of really, really cool fight scenes in this trailer. We didn't highlight all of them, but it really looks like they're ramping up the action this season. But in particular, we can see on the shields in this image that it is the Bolton sigil, and they might be fighting the wildlings, or maybe even, some Men of the Night's Watch or someone from up north.
Yeah, but a very cool, epic Game of Thrones image they always seem to deliver when it comes to those big battles. They have to space them out, but this looks to be pretty cool sequence.
And I will say, there are a couple shots of this Bolton showdown. Some people zoomed in really close on a very grainy image that the internet is claiming might be Jon Snow. I don't know if I buy it, but if you see that floating around out there, I would say it's too grainy to argue with that.
It's very grainy, and even if it was grainy, I feel like HBO again, they're all about corpse Jon Snow, so I don't know if they'd even let that sneak in. Yeah.
So some more sexy time in this trailer. I see this and I think that it is definitely Yara on the right, but I see Melisandre on the left, and some people are doubting that because her hair isn't super red. Yeah. What do you think?
At first, at a glance, I thought it was Melisandre, but now I am starting to doubt that too. Yeah, that is definitely Yara, Theon's sister, who again, we haven't seen nearly as much in the show as we have in the books. This looks like they might remedy that. But yeah, I think this will be a new lady friend of Yara's that we have not met.
Whatever, Yara, get some. Whatever floats your boat over there. Speaking about floating boats, some more Euron here. I don't want to get into spoilers, but to me this looks like it might be explaining a scene that happens off screen in the Game of Thrones books, which could be interesting. It looks like Euron is out on a bridge. That could be Pike in the background. That's really the only Iron Islands castle that we know of.
But also I would just say that, again, right after we were talking about Yara, it just seems like we're going to get way more of the Greyjoys this season than we have previously.
Which, I mean, it is interesting that we see 0 Dorne. They might have just shelved that or had it be really minimal. I don't think Dorne impressed too many people last season.
It wasn't many people's favorite part. Yeah.
This next image, again, this sort of goes back to the same thing of maybe that was young Ned Stark before. This gentleman in front of us is wearing some pretty fresh-looking Targaryen armor, which no one would have in the present. So it does seem like this is a flashback sequence. We sort of settled on it being Sir Arthur Dayne in a flashback. There's also speculation it could be Rhaegar Targaryen, but I think that the armor isn't fancy enough for the now-deceased Targaryen prince. Yeah. And this, again, could be the time of Robert's Rebellion and the Tower of Joy, and maybe he's, fighting young Ned Stark there.
More and more it seems like that is what's happening, some sort of flashback. I'm just curious sort of how much screen time they'll give that. The Cersei sequence was basically used as sort of just a cool introductory sequence. It wasn't like a whole episode, but this might be a lot, so maybe we'll get more of a flashback heavy episode.
I mean, I would be happy to get a whole Robert's Rebellion episode. That might be too much to ask, but hey, we're seeing
backdoor
a lot in
pilot.
this. Yeah, backdoor
they gotta
pilot.
set up that prequel spinoff.
Getting back to the High Sparrow and what is going on in King's Landing, this looks to be the High Sparrow with Marjorie. It is interesting as we get this clash between the High Sparrow and Cersei. Could he be getting Marjorie on his side? Could she be repenting?
We don't see a lot of Marjorie in this trailer, but little glimpses there. And she was obviously not in a good place last season. But maybe again, he might be causing rifts, and Cersei is clearly doing all she can to stop him. But maybe Marjorie will now be an ally.
And again, like you mentioned earlier with the whole Tyrion and Sansa scene, the editing makes it seem like he is talking to her. I don't think that's the case. Yeah. There is some interesting editing where it seems like Tommen and Cersei are coming at one another. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but I do think that Tommen would probably side with Marjorie over his mother at that point, which could be interesting. Blind Arya. Still blind. Still sad in the House of Faces. We get a decent amount of Arya in this trailer.
Yeah, and she's obviously, risen up as just fan favorite character, but we're still waiting to see, of course, how she will and when she will reunite with other characters from the show. But for now, it seems like we're going to really pick up with how we left off, and I am curious how long will Blind Arya be Blind Arya? Yes. Or permanently?
Well, they're definitely showing us here right now, right? Yeah. She is still blind. Don't expect that it will go away immediately. There are some ramifications to that. Bran Stark returned with Who else but the Night's King?
Night's King, yeah. Clearly the Night's King made a hell of an entrance last year. And, again, one of the reasons that we always thought about the fact that will Jon Snow ever be seen again is it just seemed like a rematch was in the cards. And while I still have my theories about that, for now, look, you could have a Bran Stark sort of take his brother's place in this conflict. I don't think many of us think this is happening, that this moment is a here and now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think, it's... First of all, Bran is standing,
yes.
Which we know that he is paralyzed. And also, he's not very snowy or dressed for the snow. I think maybe he just is having a vision or something along those lines that plops him into this place. But it is interesting that he is at least making some eye contact. He and the Night's King know that the other exists.
Yeah, and again, going back to sort of the images that HBO has released, there are other images of Bran walking as well, along with the three-eyed raven. But again, we're guessing this is all his visions that, we left off with Bran. We joked about, we kind of left him on Dagobah, as it were, and that we're going to come back and he will be much more powerful. A lot of us has theorized for a long time that Bran would end up being very important later in the show, and it looks like now that they left him out for a whole year, but this time we're going to really get to see what he can do.
Right, but that is not the end of this trailer. There are an interesting scene featuring Davos, and again, the corpse of Jon Snow, because this HBO wants us to know that Jon Snow is dead. Dead. What's interesting is that the line that Davos says is, "I've never been much of a fighter. Apologies for that." Why is he fighting? And the theory that we have come up with is that he is actually defending the corpse of Jon Snow, potentially so Melisandre could resurrect him.
And I'll totally say that on first glance, the first time I watched this trailer, I thought, as I think maybe other people did the first time they watched it, that he was taking out that sword to chop up Jon Snow's body. We have to destroy the corpse so Melisandre won't do anything to it or something. But then when you watch it again, you see other people are drawing their swords, and it just seems like there is some sort of more. If he was just going to be chopping up the body, he wouldn't need help. He was decapitating the corpse. I think you're right that he's got to help defend the body or from someone taking it.
And I also think that it's telling that in this last image we see Ghost sort of lying near Jon and defending him. Now either Ghost is dead, which I hope is not the case.
Not another direwolf.
Not another direwolf. Or Ghost, doesn't view Davos as an enemy and isn't attacking him as someone trying to, you're right, behead Jon Snow, but instead is part of this group that is defending Jon, which again leaves hope that we could get a Jon Snow risen from the dead before the end of this season. One day. Well, that day is coming ever closer. The Game of Thrones premiere is about a month and a half away at this point. So those are our thoughts about this trailer. I'm sure there is plenty more that you all have pieced out there on the internet. So let us know your favorite moments from the trailer. What did we miss? What are the other really important things? And for all things Game of Thrones, keep it here at IGN.